The moment the Indian Wells draw dropped, tennis fans didn't look at the top seeds first. They searched for one name, and when they found Alex Eala's section of the bracket, reactions instantly split into two camps. Some said this was a nightmare. Others said this was destiny, because sometimes the toughest draw isn't bad luck. It's the test that reveals whether a rising star is actually ready to become a global force. And here's why this matters more than people realize. Just 1 year ago, Alex Eala wasn't even part of conversations surrounding elite tournaments. Today, she walks into Indian Wells not as a wild card, not as a hopeful outsider, but as a seeded player with expectations, pressure, and something far heavier than hype belief. That transformation didn't happen slowly. It exploded. Rewind 12 months, and the tennis world barely noticed her results. Ranked outside the top 100, competing in ITF events, grinding through smaller tournaments, Eala was building her game quietly. She was ranked around number 140 in the world, fighting through matches that rarely made headlines. No packed stadiums, no global spotlight, just long matches, travel fatigue, and a reality every young player faces before the breakthrough arrives. Then Miami happened, and everything changed. Entering the Miami Open through a wild card, expectations were almost non-existent. Wild cards usually provide experience, not miracles. But match by match, something unusual started unfolding. First came the upset that made analysts raise eyebrows. Then another win that forced commentators to learn how to pronounce her name correctly. And then came the moment that shook the entire tour: victories over Grand Slam champions Jelena Ostapenko, Madison Keys, and world number 1 Iga Swiatek. That wasn't a lucky run. That was a statement. Fans suddenly realized they weren't watching a temporary Cinderella story. They were watching a player who absorbed pressure and turned it into fearless tennis. Her aggressive left-handed patterns, calm demeanor, and refusal to look overwhelmed made veterans uncomfortable. Opponents weren't losing to hype. They were losing to belief executed with precision. By the time she reached the Miami semifinals, Alex Eala wasn't unknown anymore. She had become a symbol of possibility, especially for fans in the Philippines, where support exploded overnight. Matches turned into national events. Social media numbers skyrocketed, and something rare happened: tennis discovered a new global fan base emotionally invested in one player's journey. That momentum didn't fade. Breaking into the top 100 was only the beginning. Instead of struggling with expectations, Eala continued climbing. Tournament by tournament, ranking points accumulated. Confidence grew. Losses became lessons rather than setbacks. And now, entering Indian Wells ranked number 32 in the world, she arrives with something she's never had before: at a WTA 1000 event, a seed next to her name. That detail changes everything. Being seeded means respect. It means protection in the draw. It means you've proven consistency across months, not just one magical tournament, and it also means pressure shifts. Opponents no longer see you as an opportunity. They see you as an obstacle. But here's where the story becomes fascinating. Because even with the reward of a first-round bye, Eala's path is anything but comfortable. Her opening match will come against either Diana Yastremska or Zhang Shuai, two players whose rankings don't fully represent how dangerous they can be. Zhang arrives in strong form after a deep run in Merida, climbing rapidly back up the rankings. Experience is her greatest weapon. She understands momentum swings, crowd energy, and how to disrupt younger players still adjusting to big stages. Yastremska presents a completely different challenge: explosive shot-making, high-risk aggression. When she's confident, matches can spiral out of control quickly. And although her recent record hasn't been dominant, dangerous players don't need perfect seasons to produce one unstoppable performance. Here's the twist. Many fans forget, Eala already defeated Yastremska convincingly last year on grass in Eastbourne, a 6-1, 6-2 win that showed tactical maturity beyond her age. But tennis memories don't guarantee future results. Every surface tells a new story. And Indian Wells courts demand patience, endurance, and emotional control. And that leads to the real curiosity gap surrounding this tournament. Because waiting in the third round could be Coco Gauff. Yes, that Coco Gauff, a home favorite, a Grand Slam champion, One of the biggest stars in American tennis stepping onto familiar courts with crowd support fully behind her. If the matchup happens, it won't just be another match, it will be a narrative collision. Their previous meeting in Dubai wasn't close. Gauff dominated, winning 6-2, 6-0 in a performance that exposed the gap that still existed between rising contender and established elite. Eala had strong fan support that day, especially from Filipino spectators filling the stands, but emotionally and tactically, Gauff controlled every moment. Now imagine the reversal. Indian Wells, American crowd, different pressure, different expectations. And suddenly the question changes from, can Eala surprise people, to can she evolve fast enough to challenge the very players defining this generation? This is where young careers either accelerate or stall. Indian Wells isn't just another WTA 1000. Players often call it the unofficial fifth Grand Slam because conditions test every aspect of a player's game. The slower courts reward intelligence, points extend longer, physical endurance becomes critical, mental lapses get punished immediately. For a developing star, success here signals readiness for consistent deep runs at the highest level. But there's also a psychological layer most fans overlook. For the first time, Alex Eala arrives carrying expectation instead of freedom. In Miami, she chased nothing. Now she defends reputation. Every opponent wants the win that proves the Miami run wasn't sustainable. Every analyst watches closely to see whether she can handle life as a target rather than a surprise. That shift can be brutal. Some players thrive once seeded. Others struggle when opponents study their patterns and adjust strategies. The tour adapts quickly, and rising stars must reinvent themselves constantly. So what does Eala need to succeed here? First, serve consistency. Indian Wells punishes weak second serves more than faster courts. Second, patience during rallies. Her aggressive instincts must balance with point construction. And third, perhaps most important, emotional pacing. Big tournaments stretch across days, not moments. If she survives the opening test, momentum could become her greatest ally again. And here's something interesting. Many commentators aren't discussing yet. Eala's popularity is growing at a speed rarely seen in tennis. Packed crowds during neutral matches. Social media engagement rivaling established stars. Young fans discovering tennis through her journey. This isn't just performance growth, it's cultural impact. Some analysts already compare her rising visibility to crossover sports figures who attract entirely new audiences. That level of attention can either elevate confidence or create overwhelming pressure. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, because behind the headlines, she's still early in her development. Tactical adjustments are ongoing. Physical endurance continues improving. Experience against top 10 opponents remains limited. Indian Wells could expose weaknesses or accelerate learning faster than smaller tournaments ever could. And here's my personal take. This draw might actually be perfect for her growth. An easier path could produce a safe result but limited progress. A difficult path forces adaptation immediately. Facing experienced opponents early sharpens decision-making. Potentially meeting Gauff again provides measurable comparison between past and present performance. Win or lose, information gained here could shape the rest of her season. But there's another storyline quietly building. The WTA Tour is entering a transitional era. Established champions remain dangerous, yet a new generation pushes relentlessly upward. Fans crave rivalries. They want recurring matchups with emotional stakes. Eala versus Gauff has ingredients for exactly that: contrasting styles, global fan bases, and narratives of progression. One dominant performance doesn't end a rivalry before it begins. Sometimes, it ignites motivation. And motivation may be Eala's strongest asset. Every interview reveals composure beyond her years. She rarely appears overwhelmed by attention. She speaks about improvement rather than fame. That mindset often separates temporary sensations from long-term contenders. Still, Indian Wells presents unforgiving reality checks. The desert conditions drain energy. Matches extend late into evenings. Momentum swings faster under pressure. Veterans know how to survive uncomfortable moments. Rising players must learn on the fly, so the big question becomes simple but powerful. Is Alex Eala ready to stop being a story and start being a threat? Because once players consistently reach second weeks of major events, perception changes permanently. Opponents prepare differently. Media narratives shift. Confidence compounds. A strong run here could push her closer to top 20 territory sooner than expected. But even an early loss won't erase progress. Development in tennis rarely follows straight lines. Some of the greatest players experience tough defeats at Indian Wells before mastering the stage later in their careers. And that's why this tournament feels like a checkpoint rather than a final verdict. Fans should watch not only results but reactions. How she handles pressure moments, how she adjusts mid-match, how she responds if momentum turns against her. Those details reveal future champions long before trophies arrive. Now I want to hear from you because this debate is dividing tennis fans everywhere. Is this draw too difficult for Alex Eala right now? Or is this exactly the challenge she needs to take the next step toward becoming a consistent top player? Drop your prediction in the comments and be honest. Are we witnessing the rise of a future Grand Slam contender? Or is the hype moving faster than reality? Because over the next few days at Indian Wells, we're going to find out something far more important than whether she wins a match. We're going to discover who Alex Eala becomes when expectations finally catch up to talent. And sometimes, that moment changes everything. One thing is certain, the tennis world will be watching closely, waiting to see whether this rising star turns pressure into another breakthrough chapter. Stay with RedDust Report for more stories shaping the future of tennis.